Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Because it's time to write now.
Right 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 now.
Because it's time to write now. If you're looking for daily accountability to help you finish your book, if you're looking for consistency because you suck with writing on a schedule, if you're looking for other writers to just hang out with because maybe you need to take a break from all the craziness, then this is the community for you. Today, we're going to be doing 3 writing sprints. So whether you're trying to stay consistent and work on your book, or maybe you just want to take a break and throw it on in the background, come hang out. And then make sure that you stick around for the breaks because we'll catch up with all of the writers in the community. We have writers, fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, horror, children's, memoir, poetry, screenplays, and all those vibes in the community. So stick around. I'm Kaufman, and I'm here to help you right now. I'm going to be working on my book, The Last Scarecrow. What are you working on today? Drop a comment. I would love to hear and come join the conversation. So what's up, Calvin and Maddie in the house? Welcome, my friends. Hope the vibe is treating you well. So guys, we're going to be kicking right into it. We're going to be starting with our first writing sprint right off the bat. Now, if you've already been writing today, great work. You've already got me beat. But if you haven't started writing yet, come join me. The first sprint is always the one to kind of get you into the vibe. Start thinking about what's that one part of your story that you're really stuck on, and ask yourself this. If you are stuck, what could you do differently? Part of the writing process is working through the brainstorming and trying to solve the story problems. We'll chat more about this on our break. I'm kind of thinking through like story problems today. I'm actually in a great place myself. Hey, what's up? You're like, Maddie, I just had the biggest revelation ever. Turns out if you look at a project as a series of short stories, it's way less daunting. Completely agreed, my friend. Something that happens to a lot of writers is they make writing projects. They make these things far too vast. Now, especially if you're working on like a series and you start trying to do all these planning, all this world building, this plotting, this character development, you can almost lose sight of the goal because it starts feeling overwhelming of how much there is to do. Now, some writers out there are able to get that hang of it because they're able to balance, stay consistent, and not lose motivation. But that's not the case for all writers. So I think for writers out there, and Maddie, I'm not saying this is you, but just from what I've seen with some writers, is if you tend to take on like too big of projects, finding a way to break it down into more of a bite-sized chunk is such a great strategy to not lose that motivation. Oh, Calvin, so exciting. Calvin, by the way, Calvin's book, The Storm Chronicles, the Tyrus campaign, is actually coming out soon, my friend. So I'm very, very excited about that, Calvin. So stoked for you, my dude. Tiara in the house, and LeMay, welcome. And Lynn, still editing my co-writing project. Well, I need to join you guys. I got some revising to do. I've done all my plotting with my zoo of animals and my apothecary of animals that are going to either kill each other or save each other. I guess we're about to find out in the Coliseum of the Last. So we're going to hop straight into it, my friends. As you can see, I have my writing stuff all set up. We're going to get this first one at 25 minutes. And I am all ready. I've also got a couple of new tunes for you. Got a couple more music. And I think I'm good on my end. I'm going to try to be more consistent about creating more playlists for you guys on a week-by-week basis. So we get more variety. All right, and I'm all ready. So writing sprint number 1, whether you are brainstorming, writing, editing, revising, procrastinating, or maybe you're just going to throw this on in the background, that's all good because it's time to write now. Writing sprint done. Writing sprint done. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. How did that writing sprint treat you? Let's see. What? I was like, I'm saying if I am. Interesting. It's kind of saying if it would let me name my timers or not. Okay, so I feel pretty good. All right, my friends. How did that writing sprint treat you? Were you able to get some work in, hopefully? I felt pretty good myself. I loved where I'm at with Scarecrow. First off, I want to hear, were you able to get any progress? Did you get words? Were you editing? Maybe you were just taking a break. Drop a comment. I would love to hear. Hope everyone is great. White's here. Great to have you here in the chat, my friend. Love having you in. And I am totally envisioning your emojis. Nice. Courtney, I saw you post in the chat earlier that you're snacking and reading over your flash since you're late to the sprint. All good, my friend. You caught us on the first one, so you got time. Let's see. White's here way too late for sprints, but always good to have you. Nice. Lynn, I feel like I'm kind of on the vibe with you. I know you're editing, and I'm kind of like revising. I'm more in revision mode than editing, but I feel pretty good, though. I'm glad that you're making some progress on your end. Nice, Calvin. 200 words. That is what's up. Maddie, hopefully the new short stories treating you well. Calvin, I have to sadly rewrite my 6 chapters since I'm unhappy with it. Hey, well, you know what? That happens to the best of us, my friend. That absolutely happens to the best of us. But I think what that means is that chapter just had some structural story problems, and the next version of the next draft of it is just going to be so much better. So I feel like that literally happens to the best of us. I mean, you've seen me. There's so many chapters I ended up rewriting that I wasn't anticipating, and I am so happy with how the chapters coming out. They're like bomb.com. The chapters are literally bomb.com. So I'm very, very happy with how those chapters have come out. Yeah, how am I feeling with Scarecrow? I feel like Scarecrow. Yeah, I feel pretty good about this chapter, actually. I realized I had to tweak a couple things originally. So for those of you tuning in, with Scarecrow, we have our main hero who has been captured, and he's basically been taken in a procession to the Colosseum of the Last. Originally, I had him being transported in cages, but I didn't want to use the cage again. And I asked myself, well, okay, if there's about 50 prisoners or 30 to 50 prisoners. We'll say there's probably 30 prisoners in this batch. No, maybe like 20 prisoners in this batch. Scarecrow, how would the primates be carrying the prisoners? They're not. So I was like, it actually makes more sense that they're walking the prisoners to the Colosseum of the Last. So I feel pretty good about it. The original version of this scene also took place in the sun as well. So it took place during the day. I've changed it to night. So it kind of has a different vibe. And I'm kind of setting off. I'm doing a little bit more, doing a little bit of world building. So we're setting this part of the story up, right? Nice. You're trying to remove, now getting annoyed with the AI art generation, trying to remove my name from the image. White Seer. Oh, you're trying to do that for your flash fiction. I mean, White Seer, you can always submit it with your name. But then what we'll do is I would end up probably taking out the image for the judges. So I would have to take out the image for the judges, so that way they could see the story without knowing who the author is. So it creates a blind submission. Or something else that you could always do, White Series, you could always crop it and do part of the image. I don't know how you have your author name on there. You could always just blur it out. That would be another thing, to just blur out the your name on it. Give me like a blurred out version, and then a non-blurred out version would be another little late. But yeah, Mary, you're all good though. You're like just finished mowing. Well, like I said, we just did our first writing sprint, so we're about to get into our second one. Yeah, and Calvin, that's always a really good point. So, and actually, Calvin, you bring up a really good question. I would actually love to hear from the chat. I'll throw this question up as a banner. How do you know if a chapter, how do you know if one of your chapters, is weak? Well, I'll put weak sauce. All right. How do you know if one of your chapters is weak sauce? I was like, actually, I don't like that banner. That banner kind of annoys me. Let's see if I can put it up here. Is weak. There we go. We're gonna do that. All right. How do you know if one of your chapters is weak sauce? That is the is the question I'm posing to you. How do you so how do you know if one of your chapters just isn't good? I would love to hear when you're working through your story and you're revising or you're reviewing and you're like, you know what, this chapter sucks. What is it about the chapter that tells you, like, okay, this chapter just isn't good? It's not a good fit. Is it you're reading through it and you just get like a feeling, you're like, it's a vibe? You're like, I know this chapter isn't good. Or is it like, okay, I'm reading this chapter and I feel like it doesn't align with my character development, or maybe it doesn't have the right feel. And I know the farther you get into the process, right, it becomes more harder because more of the character development and more of the world building and the plot becomes more and more established. So the bigger changes that you still have to make further in the process, the more difficult it becomes. Now, let's see. It doesn't. Yeah, Calvin, that's a good call out. Strike. It doesn't flow the way that you want it to. Yeah, I could totally see that. Maddie, I like your comment, by the way. You just said, Matt, I just really like your comment. Maddie, you're like, I feel like I only just figured out how useful it is to write out characters before you finish the story. Hey, you know what? More power to you, my friend. I'm all for discovery writers. I think discovery writing is great, but I also think there's power to architect writers. And I think there's also power to strategizing and strategy. Mary, that's a good call out. Mary, you said no plot movement. Lynn, you have a good one here. You're like, Lynn, if I can delete it and it won't change the story at all, if I get bored during it, if it is a duplicate beat. Well, okay, so that makes sense. So if it's a duplicate beat, absolutely. If I can delete it and it won't change the story at all. And I think this is so, Lynn, you actually put a really good call out here. If you can delete it and it won't change the story at all, I actually think this is an excellent, excellent point. If you can delete it and it won't change the story at all. And I think we all have different methods of, like, okay, well, how do we get rid of a chapter? Or how do we know if a chapter isn't right? Or something about it is wrong? And I think if we go to the story beats of the chapter or of the book, and we're asking ourselves if this story beat has already been explored by this character, is it really important to have a repetitive beat like this? And if there's an intentionality, you're like, okay, I want this specific story beat, has to happen 3 times, I want the rule of threes, I need the emphasis. Sure, there's absolutely exceptions to that, but you don't want anything repetitive in your book. If the reader has already learned something, then what's the point? They're just going to tune out. This is like the thing of when, let's say, your characters go on some type of journey and then you get a new character, but the new character now has to be caught up on everything the main characters went through. You wouldn't have the main characters recap the entire journey because the reader already knows that. You're not going to tell you don't want to tell the reader information that they already have. Otherwise, they'll tune out. So that's why it's so important to always be introducing new information to the reader. Awesome. So this is absolutely a great question. I love all of your responses. And it's actually a really good one. Mary, like, too purple and really doesn't say anything. You guys all gave some really great recommendations. You guys are actually all inspiring me. There's like some all I'm gonna need your guys' help as I'm trying to figure out how to cut pieces of Scarecrow. I'm like, all right, I got to go from 160K to 130K. I should just ask all you guys. I'm like, all right, which part should I cut? Once we get to the end, I'm like, okay, which stream, which part of the book was the weakest? Oh man, well, I appreciate y'all. And if you're enjoying the stream, follow and subscribe. We're here every day with the Right Now community. We're almost at 500 consecutive streams. Like, guys, come on, that's crazy. Crazy. We're almost at 500 consecutive writing streams. If you're new to the community and you're just hopping in, this is a great place for daily writing consistency accountability, and just hang out with other writers of all different genres and styles and skill levels and all that vibe. So the next time you're feeling unmotivated to write, the next time you're like, you don't have the passion, the next time you're like, oh, I'm burnt out. Remember, we're going to be here every day. And so you'll know when we're streaming, tap that follow and subscribe button and you'll be alerted. All right, my friends. And on that note, let's hop into writing sprint number 2. So we're going to queue up the second writing sprint. Let's go. Let's see. So I felt really good about that first one. What time? Okay, yeah. So I feel good on time. We're going to up the sprint. Writing sprint number 2 is going to be 35 minutes. All right. We're going to make some progress this time. The first writing sprint is always a good one to kind of like dip our feet back into the water if we haven't written yet today, and then get ourselves back into the writing vibe. So now we're warmed up. I was like, let's get this in. So now we're warmed up, and now is the time to push ourselves. I'm gonna throw up the music. I was actually really vibing with that first, with those first couple songs. So I think I'm gonna replay the first couple ones because I was vibing with that, and then we'll cue up some of our other music. And yeah, so let's do it. And make sure to hang out. We'll be back on the break and catch up some more. So whether you are brainstorming, writing, editing, revising, author branding, or maybe you're just procrastinating, that's all good because it's time to write now. Writing sprint done. Writing sprint done. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I feel pretty good about this. I feel like we were able to get some great progress on our storytelling. How did that treat you? Were you able to get some progress on your storytelling? Let me know. Drop a question. I would love to hear from you. We went a little longer that time. So that was our second writing sprint. We're going to get into our third one in just a bit. So 35 minutes. What did you feel better about that second sprint? Because I know I did. So I feel like I'm getting into this chapter. And I thought actually originally I thought this chapter would be more of a rewrite, but I think this chapter is a revision, which is nice because I've had so many rewrite chapters. So this chapter is just kind of layering on a revision, which I'm pretty happy with. There's some things that I'm adding in, but this chapter definitely doesn't feel like a rewrite, which is a nice change. And I have the core for the characters there. What's interesting is in the original draft, this was the first chapter where I felt like Gore the grizzly bear had a bit more of a personality. Now that I've set him up in this draft, I feel a little stronger. And I really want to push that scholarly vibe with Gore. I really want to push Gore's like scholarly like he just has to know, like if he doesn't know that next question on the horizon, if he doesn't understand the answer, that will drive him mad. So I really want to play into that vibe and see how that comes across. Let's see, where are you, Matt? You're like, I might have spoken too soon about the writing things, like short stories. I think I'm making a pretty fire movie on its own. I don't know if I'm mad about it or not. Well, I mean, Maddie, it sounds like you've been going back and forth on all the things that you're doing. From what we've read from at least the movie that you shared the other on the critique show, on the last critique show, is pretty good. Is a really good opening to a script. So like maybe it's a sign to keep going in the direction and maybe do some short stories for it. Maybe you got to do both. Expand the world, expand the mind of the readers. Nice, Lynn. That's awesome. You're able to finish the rest of the chapter. Lynn, I feel like you're making some awesome progress, by the way. Actually, I feel like we're all making some good progress. I'm feeling pretty good about my revision notes today. Ooh, actually, this comes up with a good question. I'm actually curious because I actually see some editing. Mary, I saw you got some editing as well. Let's see, how many characters is too much for the reader? Yeah, Emperor, that's a really good call. Like, how many characters in the first chapters is too much for the reader? I don't know if there's like a number of characters that's too much. I think it's more a number of pages can sometimes be a challenge. But the more characters you have, the more setups that you have to do. So I think that's always something interesting to keep in mind. Yeah. So when I'm thinking about editing and revising, so I know in the last break, I was asking all of you about how do you know if a chapter is weak? So let's say that you've figured out, you're like, okay, I know the chapter is weak. What do you do about it? So when you find a problem, when you find a problem in your story, when you find a problem in your story, let's say like it's a story beat, like a story beat isn't right. When you find a problem in your story, how do you fix it? I'm curious if, as writers, if you have like a go-to solution for addressing all your problems. I was like, oh, no, I don't like that one. How do you fix? All right. There we go. When you find a problem in your story, how do you fix? I'll pose this question to you because I know there's so many different types of problems. I know different problems can have different solutions. But once we've addressed a problem, and I'll just share, like, this is what I do. So when I'm going through a story, and let's say I have a character problem, like maybe a character doesn't make sense, or maybe a plot beat just doesn't feel like it matches, I actually add it to a list. Actually, no, let rephrase that. It depends on which draft I'm on. And maybe you guys take a similar approach. So if I find a problem in the first draft, I just keep writing. If it's something I can solve in the moment, great. Let's write it. Let's do it. If it's not something I can solve in the moment, like it's going to take more time, I will take a mental note of it and I'll come back to it in the second draft. Second draft, if I have a problem, I try to fix it. I'll invest more time in trying to fix the problem. But if I've already passed the point in the draft where the problem needs to be fixed, it gets added to a list. And I'll give you guys a perfect example here because I have my outline pulled up right now. So I kind of get a recurring list, and this is when I'm on my second draft. So when I'm on my second draft, and if I got the problem that needs to be fixed, I like to create this handy dandy list. It's right at this top. I'm using my outline right now. So I like to just create a list of all the problems, right? So if I fix the problem as I'm going through it, great. But if I've already passed the chapter, so I don't interrupt my workflow, I kind of just get this list of things that need to be addressed in the next draft. This way, I don't feel like I interrupt my workflow by going back and forth between different chapters, and I can just keep going in a forward progression. This also helps me be able to stay consistent or stay consistent in moving forward, and feeling like I'm never moving backwards in my own revision mode. Let's see what do we got in the chat. Let's see. Oh, Cordy, you still need 244 words for your flash fiction. Would you like to help me by reading this over and let me know where it could be expanded? Well, good luck on the flash fiction, my friend. I know that is the vibe, and we got so many writers in the community working on it. Courtney, you should totally just put out a call for help in the Discord, because I know there's other writers who've been putting out a call for help as well over there. Calvin, I like your answer. Why, when you find a problem in a story, how do you fix? Write, read, rewrite. Very, very straightforward, my friend. I absolutely love that. Oh, man. Interesting. Well, and this is a really interesting call. So, like, either by going back to previous scenes to justify it, or figure out how to add more conflict. That's always interesting. So, yeah, it's almost like you treat it in one of two ways, right? Is there justification for this problem being here, or does there need to be more conflict to drive the progression of the story, which is interesting. It's a great way to look at it. Yo, what's up, ML in the house? Welcome, ML. Hope all is well for you today. Let's see, Terry, like, it depends on the problem, but usually I start with a rewrite, but that has added so much time to my writing process, and I need to figure out how to be better about that. Oh, so Tiara, this is really interesting. So you said it depends on the problem, but it says that whenever you see a problem, you need to fix it, but then it starts adding more work for you to do. And then my guess, and I don't know if this is true, but maybe because then you see the problems, then you're never able to solve all the problems because you keep finding more problems as you're writing. And I think for me, by understanding what draft of the story I'm on, and being able to solve a problem as I'm writing it, like, that's a win for me. And if I have already passed the part of the story that I'm on with the problem and adding it to a list, then I can just do that on the next draft, right? So that way I don't get so many problems, Tiara, and then I end up spending the draft hopping back and forth trying to fix problems. Because at the end of the day, or at the end of the draft that you're on, you want to ask yourself, what is the goal of your current draft? Right? What is the goal of your current draft? Rough drafts, have fun, tell a cool story. Some things won't make sense. That's fine. Second draft, at least get to the end. And this is, of course, depending on, and not saying you, Tara, but just on, it's going to depend on skill level and the type of story that people are trying to tell and just in general. But I think having a goal for the type of draft can make a huge difference. Right? So if the goal is like, okay, I want to get to the end of the draft and I want the story, I want the plot to make sense. Some writers can go through a draft and they can have multiple goals. Like for me, I could go through an entire draft. I could be like, okay, I can have my plot, I can have my characters, I can have my plot and my characters make sense. And I know I can accomplish that because I've done this before. Other writers aren't going to be able to do that, right? So you have to be clear on what your goal is for your draft. And then once you get to the end of the draft, you'll have these list of problems, and then go back and fix the problems, right? Maybe you need to work through the story chronologically and go beginning to end like me. I have to work chronologically. Or maybe for some writers, if you've gone through the story a bunch, maybe you don't have to do it chronologically. Maybe that's a waste of time. Maybe you need to hop around the story and just fix the problems themselves. So that's a great conversation, actually. Solving problems. All right, Maddie, I approved. I think this is the solution to all of our writing problems. When I have a problem, I like to write insults on the page and then wallow in self-pity. The internal writer dialogue as we're taunting ourselves. Oh, man, y'all crack me up. Yo, what's up, brain? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. Emma, glad you're able to catch this. We're about to hop into our third writing sprint. So anyone who's just hopping into the chat, we're just about to hop into our third writing sprint. Penumbra, you're like, I write thousands of words to replace it, then wonder why I didn't just delete the problem. Penumbra, I've been there as well. And I think Calvin mentioned it earlier as well, where sometimes we keep trying to fix a problem to think like, okay, maybe the scene, there's something we keep trying to fix and fix it and fix it, only to realize that the true solution is actually just delete it. Sometimes the solution is delete it, but there's times when we don't know that solution until we've tried to work through it. And we're like, yeah, getting rid of it is just a better option and it's going to save us time because it just doesn't work for the story. Been there, done that. And I think that happens to the best of us. Mary, I think that's a really good strategy. Mary mentioned reading it aloud, and I think that is so important for writers. I believe every writer should have a draft where they read the entire manuscript aloud to themselves or to a close friend or to close friends. Read it aloud, get feedback. You need to hear it read aloud, whether it's yourself, whether it's someone else. And because you just need to hear it in a different format, right? And especially if you're when you're going to publish your book eventually, you're going to want to publish an audiobook. If you're getting your book published and let's say like, okay, don't have the finance for the audiobook, sure, that's fine. Record a low quality audiobook and then put that out there. That is better than no audiobook at all. And that at least you can use as a placeholder because the normal indie book, self-publishing book market, right? There's some competition, there's strategies, you got to do the social thing, you got to build the community and all that jazz. Audiobooks is a little bit of a faster growing market. You have a little bit more opportunity. So audiobooks, highly recommend. If you're going to be reading it out eventually, audiobooks, so important. So important. All right. Well, I'm getting off track there. But audiobooks are so important. And that's not just because I love listening to audiobooks. That's based off stats and numbers. Like I know audiobook market is really good. Either way, we're spending time. Yeah, Penumbra, that's a good call. Like I read it aloud and then later I let the computer read it to me in a voice as different from mine as possible. I also read an editing copy in a completely different font than I usually write in. Yeah, and sometimes I think it's just seeing it in a different font is sometimes the key to success. I totally agree with that. Seeing it in a different font, in a different format can sometimes be the key to success. Awesome. Woo! All right. So I feel really good about that. And on that note, let's see, what do we got queued up today? I was like, oh, there's so many things that we got going on in the community. I feel like I need to just like create like a menu. I just need to create like a menu of like, all right, here's everything we got going. You just pick the thing that interests you. It's like what I need to create. Whenever I get to like an ad break, I'm like, all right, well, this is the thing I should talk about. I'm like, there's like 6 or 7 things that I could talk about, but I don't actually even know which one's the right one. All right, let's go the newsletter. So anybody who's not subscribed to the Art of Writing newsletter, this is the newsletter for you. I send out articles. I send out writing articles, stories, and tips to help you be a better writer. Right now, I'm on a monthly cadence where I'm getting out a solid newsletter per month. But for new newsletter subscribers, you're actually getting a lot of other newsletters as well. You will also get access to the Easy Edit tool, which is a PDF tool that I created to help you with the editing process. You also get the weekly live stream schedule. So if you want to know when we're streaming, like what times we are and what events we're streaming at before it gets posted on socials, then make sure you subscribe to the Art of Writing newsletter. It is linked down in the YouTube description down below. I will also drop it in the chat for anybody who is not already a subscriber. Highly recommend, because I talk about all the things that we're got going on in the community. So that's what I got. The Art of Writing right now. All right. Whew, perfect. So I wanted to get that. I haven't done a newsletter subscribe in a while. Newslettersbomb.com though. I was like, I've had so much fun doing the newsletter. Okay. So let's see. I know I like totally fell behind on comments over here. Let's see. Len, you said that you write in Comic Sans. That's interesting. I actually used to do the first 100 days of the live streams. I did all the writing in Comic Sans. And then I started getting too many people coming in the streams telling me that it didn't look as professional. So I changed the font choice. But I heard Comic Sans is the easiest on the eyes, which is why I went with it originally. Interesting. You know, I've never used Writer Duet before, but it sounds like an interesting software. I was like, Writer Duet, professional screenwriting. Yeah, so for all you for you screenwriters, I use Final Draft. So I use Final Draft for my screenplays and my screen software, but of course Final Draft costs more. And since you have to invest more in the software, it looks like Writer Duet is the better, like more affordable option. I was like, I'm looking at, oh shit, yeah, of course. Writer Duet is free. 3 projects, industry standard templates, unlimited real time. Okay, so you only get the desktop application if you pay the $10. I wonder if this is a one-time fee, or if it's a monthly. Choose the plan that's right for you. Interesting. So it looks like you're paying about 10 to 15. My guess is probably a monthly. So they take you straight to it. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yep. Yeah, so I'm not surprised. It's a monthly subscription for Writer Duet. Let's see. Maddie, I cooked with the line. Your characters need you to write their story in the newsletter. I actually absolutely love that, Maddie. I know I've said that before. I should start that with the newsletter, actually. Maybe I'll do the next article on a character development. Characters have totally been on my mind, especially with like the 50 animals that I'm doing. Maybe I'll do my next article on a character development. There's like so many articles that I have planned, and I was like, all right, which one do I feel like writing about this time? Character development would actually be a good one. And I already have a video here, so I do have a video that's going to be coming out about character breakdowns. So I think character development is actually a good one. I like that. Let's see. All right. So on that note, let's get into our next writing sprint. So I'm going to be getting into writing sprint number 3. So, and let's see, we're going to go number 3 is the best. So we'll be queuing it up. I'll be going a little bit longer, 45 minutes on the clock. I believe in us. We are totally going to get some writing work in. Go big or go home, my friends. So I totally believe in us. I'm going to play the music. We got some first 2 great writing sprints, and I think the third one, we're really going to kick it up a notch. So if you want to come and get your writing on, you can come join us, or you could keep on chatting and hang out. I will throw up the music, but I am all ready. So whether you are brainstorming, writing, editing, revising, branding, reading, procrastinating, or you just want to hang out, come join us because it's time to write now. All right, my friends, writing sprint completed. Writing sprint completed. How do you guys feel about that? Were you able to get some progress that time? I know I was. I felt pretty good. I felt pretty good that time. I feel like I was actually able to make some substantial and solid progress on Scarecrow. Let's see. How many words? I think I did through let's see. So I did about 600 to 700 words of revision, and then I'm pretty clear on how I'm going about the rest of the chapter. So I'm actually pretty happy with what I accomplished today. Did a little admin today, but I feel like I leaned more into the writing today, which was really, really cool. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. Hope you were able to get some progress as well. I know we had a lot of writing. I know we had a lot of editing going on in the chat today. And you know what? We all got to make some progress, my friends. So one step, one page, one day, one character at a time. Awesome. So I'm glad I was not the only one alone in making some progress. So on that note, as I look towards creative writing on the morrow, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode meeting of our Right Now Writers group. So we'll be back tomorrow. Do you want to join? Do you want accountability? Well, you know what? If you show up to the writers group and you hop on camera, you're going to hold yourself accountable because you're showing up. So if you want to hop on stream with us, come join us, drop a comment, let me know, shoot a message over on Discord, because Wednesday is tomorrow is the 44th meeting of our Right Now Writers group. And we will be going live at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday, same time. Come join us as we chat with other writers in the community and try to help motivate each other with some writing. So that'll be cool. And most importantly, before you leave the stream, if you enjoyed it, tap that like button on the way out. Help us show the algorithms that writing streams are cool. All right, my friends, it's been great. I feel like we were able to have some excellent conversations. And Tiara, this is a great question before I sign off. You said, so I spent that sprint eating dinner. Well, and I want to do some sprints in the Discord. I might hang out there. So this is awesome. And once again, if you guys ever want to do co-working sprints, co-working sprints, or video calls in the Discord, you all have the power. You guys can all go hang out over in the co-working lounge, where there's a couple spots where you can do an audio only, or you can do audio and video. Maybe you want to like get some more work done together, or you just want to chat writing stuff. That's always an option. And I know sometimes, especially when we're getting like closer to writing competitions, people are like, all right, let's all like band together and try to like motivate each other and like get through it. So always a good call and always a great option, Tiara. Absolutely. Excellent. So sounds like Tiara, you got a couple people who might want to join in on the fun. Glad we were able to get some progress in today. And I think I'm chilling. So on that note, we chilling. We were writing now. But unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.
Right now.
Right
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.